Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Sunday, December 1st. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The game against Michigan is in 363 days. Got to tell you, I was thinking I was probably going to be saying something about the Big Ten championship game against Oregon being in 6 days at the start of the show. There's some other stuff that we didn't necessarily see coming on Saturday inside Ohio Stadium. Michigan comes in a 3-touchdown underdog, shocks Ohio State 13-10. Joined by Kevin Noon of BuckeyeHuddle.com. Kevin, let's start with the good news. And there's really two pieces of good news for Ohio State. One is that the season is not over. The 12-team playoff means they are still absolutely in a position to compete for and potentially win the national championship this year.
Not according to fans.
Well,
and that's, but reality is that all you need, they say in pokers, you need a chip and a chair. Ohio State has a chip and a chair. And it's not like Ohio State would be getting in as the 12 seed. The range seems to be between the 5 and the 9. Goodbye first round bye. That's just not going to be there. You're going to have to play a game before Christmas, so that's you got that to look forward to. I mean, under the scenario we talked about, most of the odds are that they would play a game at Ohio Stadium, but if things fall weird, they could have to travel, and you don't know if that means going to Athens, Georgia, or Knoxville, Tennessee, or wherever. So we'll kind of see from there. But the sun will come up tomorrow. But I think there are going to be a lot of people with a major hangover and headache, I'm still processing all this. I'm still trying to process what I saw.
Yeah, and the other good piece of news for Ohio State is, the Ohio State defense, which for years and years and years, everyone complained couldn't get a stop, couldn't get a turnover. They get killed in the second half. They were absolutely dominant for 60 minutes, really. I mean, they really wore down at the very, very end, but the 10 of Michigan's 13 points came on drives of 3 yards and 2 yards and were set up by Ohio State turnovers. The defense did absolutely everything it possibly could, short of running an interception back for a touchdown. Caleb Downs had an interception in the red zone, and Ohio State went 4 plays, 0 yards, and missed a field goal. And it was a return to the some of the bad old days of Jim Tressel. There were a lot of good days for Jim Tressel, but there was also, you think about those games where it's like, well, as long as Chris Gamble can run this interception back for a touchdown against Penn State, they can get to 13 points. And you kind of felt like that at times on Saturday, where the offense just was doing nothing for extended periods. And the defense absolutely did its part, but there were a lot of other areas where stuff didn't happen the way it should have.
Yeah, Jack Sawyer had an interception too, deep in the red zone, in the gold zone, and he got a little bit of a return there. And I remember saying to somebody standing next to me, "It's like, he better take that all the way, because I don't know if this offense has it today." And obviously, it didn't. The defense did allow a third down conversion on the first series of the game, but didn't allow a second one. So, I mean, a real turnaround from some of the things that we've seen with Ohio State, and its slow starts, at least on the defensive side of the ball. But anybody trying to put this at the feet of the defense, and there will be that person who's like, well, they had Mullings wrapped up and he squirted out and took it to the 17 or whatever that was. And at some point, I mean, this defense was out there having to play against a Michigan team that was just slamming Mullings into defenders, and you're eventually going to wear down. And it was not like Ohio State was necessarily giving the defense a good opportunity to recover when you had a lot of really empty possessions from the Ohio State offense.
Yeah, it felt like Callum Mullings had really one long run, and that was one where it was really the only obvious bad missed tackle all game long, and it was in the game-winning field goal drive. They had him. It was a third down. It looked like maybe Ty Hamilton was going to get him in the backfield, and Jack Sawyer was kind of close there as well. And he managed to break free, and he's a good running back. You're going to break tackles at some point. The defense played so well all game that it's hard to say, okay, well, there was the one play, and that was the one, and it's hard to point at that and go, well, it's the defense's fault, because, I mean, you talked about needing a chip in a chair. Ohio State had a chip on Saturday, and he called an offense, and there was an awful lot of running the ball, extremely unproductive, running the ball inside. When you came into the game, we talked, Tony Gerderman and I did a show on Friday night or Friday afternoon saying, here's, if Michigan's going to win the game, here's what happens. The defensive line controls the line of scrimmage. Ohio State's going to have a tough time running the ball inside. They're going to have to get the ball outside. They may have to throw to set up the run. And it was just kind of like, nope, good old rock. Nothing beats rock. And it was just, there was so much running between the tackles, and it never, ever, ever worked.
Ohio State has had so much success through the years, and I think that maybe there's this belief that if we just keep trying it, it's bound to work. And it did not work, period. And Ohio State was coming out and running on first down, some series running on first and second down, and the old run pass punt joke, and we were starting to see some run pass punt. And Ohio State had opportunities to move the ball down the field. We haven't really talked about Will Howard, got roughed up on a play. Was he himself at that point? I kind of have my feelings that he was diminished to a certain extent, but running the ball was not working, and Ryan Day comes in and talks about, just this emphasis on running the ball. So I don't know necessarily what he and Chip Kelly saw and kept them moving forward on that path, because that path, there's a Talking Heads song called Road to Nowhere, and they were on the road to nowhere.
Yeah, that turned into the road to 2nd and 9 and 3rd and 7 frequently. And then you can, if you're Michigan, tee off on the pass, because if it's 3rd and 7, Ohio State's probably going to be throwing the ball. So that sets you up for failure. And what was particularly strange to me was Ohio State, right before halftime, had a 2-minute drill, 9 plays, 75 yards, just throwing the ball, up-tempo, boom, 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 right down the field. They score a touchdown, and you went into halftime, and it's 10-10, and you thought, well, Ohio State handed Michigan a touchdown early with an interception that set up a 3-yard touchdown drive, and they handed Michigan a field goal on a 2-yard drive. So Michigan scoring drives, 10 points, totaling 5 yards in the first half. And it's like, well, all they have to do is they have had this horrible first half. All they have to do now is just not make the cataclysmic mistakes again, and just run a little up tempo. And then you didn't really see that in the second half, which was, we'll get to the special teams and how the special teams sort of set up some of the challenges that they had in the second half. But it felt like they had something that was working, and then they never really went back to it to see if it would still work in the second half.
I really wish I could have been a fly on the wall for the halftime speech and everything that was going on there, because they never went back to the things that were working, and they went back to the things that weren't working. Whether or not, again, is it stubbornness, arrogance? I mean, I don't know. I don't want to necessarily throw things out there, or a lot of fans that are very mad and want to see significant change. And spoiler alert, that's the way that you want to see it. He's not getting tarmacked. He's not getting tarmacked. I don't know what to tell you. Deal with it. Yeah, they just went back out and they just kept doing the same thing. They came out on the first, you sit there and you have the special team gaff. You have the kickoff and you start at the 6, and you're almost forced to run at that point, even though you knew what was going to be the result of that, 2nd and 9 and 3rd and 7. Whether or not that was the case there, or they got even less yardage than that, I can't say. I can't remember there. But you wanted to be able to throw the ball. I think that they really had ample opportunity to find Carnell Tate out there, and they just couldn't do it.
And one of the things that I think, we talked about the defense, which was great. We talked about the offense, which was not. The special teams were a whole separate issue. You had a couple missed field goals. That obviously is, in a game that you lost by 3 points, 2 missed field goals, I can do the math for you, it would have made a difference. But there were also 2 plays, one where it looked like Caleb Downs lost a punt in the sun, and it took a huge Michigan roll and ended up inside.
It was a big line drive, and I think it kind of took off on them.
Okay, yeah, and it skipped down and ended up inside the 10, and so they're starting very deep in their own territory. And then the opening kickoff of the second half, they've just gone down the field, they've tied the game, they've got all this momentum. They're going to get the ball. It's just like, okay, well, they're going to get the ball. They'll go down the field. They'll score some points. And then Michigan's kind of on their back foot. And then Michigan, which really never threw the ball all game and was really struggling to run the ball for long stretches of the game, turned the ball over a couple times. And it was like, well, so you get up in Michigan, and then, okay, you sort of settled things down, and it's going to be a little bit ugly, but they'll win. And then Travion Henderson, the kickoff kind of got hung up in the wind, and he ended up bouncing in front of him, and he had to kind of just fall on it. And so then you get the ball, instead of starting on the 25, you're starting on your 6 or whatever it was.
6, yeah.
And so then you're backed up again. And then, okay, so then you're in the same, well, you don't want to throw the ball down here because you don't want to make the big mistakes. Then you got to run the ball, and you can't run the ball. And so you had a couple possessions that got kind of killed on just wonky special team stuff. And in a game like this, that stuff matters.
And Ohio State had been coming off of 3 weeks of really solid special teams plays with block punts, falling on a muffed punt, a punt return for a touchdown. All these things are starting to go well. And it's like, well, Ohio State has finally emerged out of the Fleming forest, and things are going well. And it just seems that Ohio State, here in the last 4 years, if something can go wrong in the Michigan game, it does. And I would love to come downstairs to get set up for post game at the end of the third quarter. And even at that point, I was down, and I was like, as long as Ohio State just continues doing what it's doing defensively, Michigan isn't going to get more than maybe a first down per series. And Ohio State is going to loose one at some point. They're going to get loose on something, and something is going to work. And Ohio State's going to win a one-score game, and fans are going to be pissed how ugly it is, but it's going to be a win.
Yep.
Well, I'd much rather have that conversation than the one we're having right now, but that's where we are.
Yeah, and that is where we are. And now Ohio State has to sit around and wait for a week. They have lost all say in where they end up in the college football playoff. It's the body of work going up to this point is probably such that they should be they should be hosting a playoff game. They are now out of the Big Ten championship game.
By virtue of Penn State is killing whoever
Maryland.
right now.
Penn State's killing Maryland. So Penn State is going to be ahead of Ohio State. And so now you're not going to go to Indianapolis. And so you can't win the Big Ten, so you can't be one of the top 4 seeds. So now the question is, are you 5, are you 6, are you 7, are you 8, are you 9? Where do you fall in that pecking order? It's going to be fascinating to hear what the committee says about this team on Tuesday, because that's if they fall from 2 to 4, you're realistically probably not going to fall too much more, and you're going to be a 5 or a 6 seed or something like that. If they fall from 2 to 7,
and 5 has been 5 spots has been kind of the standard deviation of what happens with a loss. You fall about 5 spots, and things matter. And people who are watching this game has already happened at that point should be cheering for USC. Get Notre Dame to move down. Don't let Notre Dame move up over you. Things like that. All of that would help. It's 21 all of the time that we're recording. So the magic of television. You'll be seeing this later around the time that I've had dinner.
Yeah. So there's still a lot on the table for Ohio State. The national championship is still on the table for Ohio State. Like it or not, and I think no one in Columbus is liking much of anything right now, but like it or not, this is the new reality of college football. Is you can lose this game. If your season up till now is good enough, you can lose this game and you don't get to go to Indianapolis, but you do get to go to the college football playoff, and you do still get a chance to play for the national championship. And you can call that the NFL-ication of the sport, and it's very much a new thing for everyone this year because we haven't seen it before. But it is the new reality of college football. And, I know everyone wants to run Ryan Day out of town on a rail right now. If Ryan Day, they rebound and they go win the national championship, and I don't see an unbeatable juggernaut out there this year. So, Ohio State looked terrible on Saturday. Georgia looked terrible on Friday.
And I talked to somebody when you guys were doing your post-game show in the chat, and I said, in Columbus, Ohio State beats Georgia by 10, and everybody was yelling at me, and I'm like, did you watch Georgia? And they're like, yes. I'm like, have you sobered up since Georgia? Because Georgia was terrible.
Yeah.
Georgia had to do everything to come back, including get a couple of calls from the officials and everything else. So just because of this, let's not forget, Ohio State looked like cheeks against Nebraska. I mean, and then bounce back. And of course, people are going to still say, well, who's Ohio State played or whatever. But, everything is artificially, propped up. I mean, the SEC, the SEC is so great. No, we've spent a lot of time saying that it's kind of mediocre in a lot of ways. So it's going to be very interesting. I think our Tuesday show is going to be highly viewed, and then of course the following Sunday, I think that's going to be highly viewed as well, because when we know what's going on and have our opportunity to talk to Day and the Buckeyes, because probably won't get to talk to them prior. For signing day.
For signing day, for signing day on the 4th. Yeah, boy, this is going to be a very different week than we were expecting, but definitely an interesting week. Early signing day is on December 4th. That's Wednesday. And then everyone will be sitting around watching the conference championship games on Friday and Saturday. And then Sunday is Selection Sunday, next Sunday, usually at noon, I believe, next Sunday on December 8th. Find out what's happening with Ohio State, whether they're getting a home playoff game, a road playoff game, what's going on there, who they're playing. Boy, it is going to be a fascinating week between the recruiting and the season and the start of the 12-team college football playoff era. Not the way Ohio State wanted to finish the regular season, certainly, but still everything still on the table for them in terms of the national championship. Big Ten championship, obviously not, but national championship, absolutely. So we will see where they end up headed and who they end up playing about a week from now. So until then, you can check us out at BuckeyeHuddle.com. I suspect it will be a lively week on the message board, on the huddle board, presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Going to be a lot to talk about there. I am so excited to talk to Ross Fulton, our X's and O's guy, for a couple of the morning shows later in the week. I am so interested to find out if what I saw was what I really saw, what I think I saw was what I really saw, because it feels like I know what I saw, and for good and for bad. I'm going to be interested to talk to Ross and get his thoughts on that, and then also thoughts on, okay, is this fixable? Is this an offensive line issue that's not fixable, or is this fixable moving forward? Because that presents a couple different pathways moving forward to the rest of the season. So we will be at BuckeyeHuddle.com. We will be at YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. Lots of content for you there. Lots of content for you at BuckeyeHuddle.com. We hope to see you there. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.